Guys, let's talk about today's men, disposable. Here on Resilient Man channel today, we're going to look at two things that will help you as a man watching if you feel disposable in today's society as a guy. You know, a lot in our society is disposable. We live in an instant gratification, instant society and culture today. But it can be especially difficult for a lot of you men watching because many times, in many ways, we're seen as disposable as well. If you're a guy, a man that feels disposable, this message is for you. Stick around. We're going to discuss two things that will help you feel less disposable and more resilient in our society today. So, welcome back to Resilient Man channel. If you're new, special welcome to you. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Your support of the channel is greatly appreciated. There's a lot of great content here for men as advocates for each other and to help each other as we deal with and navigate the challenges in our society today and culture as men. So the question I believe a lot of men struggle with today is, how do you as a man stay resilient in spite of living in a society and culture that makes you feel like you are disposable? And in many ways, there's good reason for that. So if you're a guy that feels disposable in these times, what you're feeling is legitimate. That's number one. I did a video recently, what is men's value to society? Check it out. It's a great reminder and will encourage you as a man to the value that you bring to society and to culture, to your family, to your friends, to your children if you're a father. It's a great reminder of your value as a man. It's called What is Men's Value to Society here on Resilient Man channel. Check it out. You know, the reality is we live in a very female-centric society. That's just a fact. I think the way society has gone over the past 20 years is men are just seen as disposable, and what we bring to the table as far as our resources and what that is our value to a lot of people. It's not our value as human beings, and we're just as valuable as women. You know, a few examples that I would share are, if you look at, say, for example, homelessness in our society, men's homelessness versus women's homelessness. You know, the majority of homeless in our society are mainly men. I would say 85 to 90% that you see out on the streets are men. And when you look at the shelters or the help that's available, the majority of it is available for women. And it really doesn't make any sense because the majority of homeless in our society are men. And yet that's not where our focus is. That's not where society's focus and the help truly go. You will have shelters, many shelters for women or for battered wives and what have you, which is necessary. I'm not saying that's not necessary, but the disparity between men and women's homelessness from what we do to help them is glaring. And the reason for it is because men are simply not seen as valuable as women. Another example of this would be de-violence, as in domestic, watch my words for YouTube, against men from the women in their lives. Yes, it is real. De-violence against men by their women is a real problem in our society today. A lot of times it's ignored, and sometimes it's even mocked, you know, even though any type of DV, if you will, against a man or a woman is simply unacceptable. And yet it's taken seriously when it's against a woman, but when it comes to a man, it's not taken seriously. Many times it's ignored or even mocked. And a lot of times the women who are guilty of this, the consequences that they see legally are nowhere near what a man sees. You know, in both of these examples that I've shared with homelessness and DV, violence of a domestic sort, we see a major disparity. There are many avenues and many shelters and many ways that women are helped in our society when it comes to just these two examples, but very few for men. And the obvious question is, why? Men are seen as disposable, and we're not seen as valuable to society, at least not as valuable as women. Actually, just the opposite. Men are still seen as the privileged class, the privileged sex, which we all know is complete nonsense. We do live in a very female-centric society where women are seen as more valuable and are put up on a pedestal. If you take, for example, our so-called family courts, the courts sides with the woman a vast majority of the time. Why is that? Because men are seen as less valuable and are seen as disposable. Go sit in a family court for a day and you will see the disparity of that. Even in dating today, you see women rack up these huge body counts and are constantly trying to level up via hypergamy. Well, why is that? That's because men are seen as a disposable commodity to be used and then discarded to move on to what they see as a more high value man. You even see in social media, there are women who make content about the quote unquote starter marriages, where they literally enter a marriage with the intent of draining the man of his resources and then moving on with their life, filing for divorce, as upwards of 80% of women are doing now today. And they move on because they know that in the family court system, the majority of the time, the court is going to side with them, even though they have initiated the divorce. Again, why? Because men are seen as a disposable commodity. You see in social media today where sometimes women will be discussing men's issues and the challenges that men are struggling with today. And many men are, especially younger guys, say 18 to 35. And almost every time they are discussing a men's issue, the conversation is almost always spun back to how it's affecting women and how the women are experiencing a negative impact because of what men are going through. So these women who are discussing men's issues and the struggles that some men are really having in our society, they can't even stay focused on helping these men who are struggling in our society. It has to come back to how it impacts them as women, because they see men as a disposable commodity. So if you're feeling this way, if you're a man watching this right now, again, what you feel is legitimate. It is real. But let's talk about two things that will help you, as a man watching this, feel more resilient and not disposable, because you do bring a lot of value to our society and our culture. So let's discuss two things. So the first one is purpose. And that purpose cannot be a woman. It cannot be tied to a woman. A man with a strong purpose is not disposable. And it's almost impossible for you to feel disposable if you have a strong purpose in your life. And that is specifically what you are working on. You know, I did a video here on Resilient Man channel called Your Plan, Not Hers. Go check it out, where I talk about having your purpose, your plan, your goals, what your aspirations are, the life, the ideal life that you are trying to craft and create. And if you do that, you will attract a better quality woman who's going to be in your frame and your purpose. The point being, when you have that purpose and you have that reason for being and that reason for getting up every day, they cannot take that away from you, and they cannot, no one else can make you feel disposable because you are on track, you are on purpose. I know in my own life, my personal purpose when I was married was to be a husband and a father. Well, the marriage ended, and now my purpose is my relationship with my grown children and crafting the life that I want to live once they are completely out in the world and living their own lives. You know, as a parent, as you guys who are parents who are watching this, our job is to prepare them to leave, to prepare our children to leave, because that's what they should do, go out and create their own lives. Well, after that, we have our own lives, and we should look forward to that, and that should be part of our purpose. So you must focus on your purpose once the kids are grown, and having a strong purpose enables you as a man to not feel disposable. You can't feel disposable because you have reason and you have purpose in your life. So that would be number one. The second part of this that I would segue into is extremely important, and that is knowing your worth. And I mean really knowing your worth within yourself. Knowing your worth is how you stay resilient and focused on your purpose. Okay? You're not dependent on what somebody else thinks or what the culture thinks or society thinks, specifically a woman, because if you allow that in that type of scenario, you always take the risk of being disposed of. You know, many of you guys watching this have experienced where your wife or what have you has walked out on you. She filed for divorce. She initiated this, and essentially you were disposed of. And that was out of your control. But that had nothing to do with your worth and your value as a human being and as a man. And that's something you must realize. And once you realize that, and that you cannot allow others to determine your worth is non-negotiable. You determine your worth for yourself. And you say to yourself, I'm not disposable because of my purpose and because of knowing my worth. That's why my mantra is know your worth, protect your peace. I say it after every Resilient Man video. And the reason that is my mantra, the reason why I say it on Resilient Man channel content is because coming out of what I came out of, I was in a miserable, contentious marriage. And before the marriage, I was a very strong, resilient guy, you know, on purpose. And then after years of being in a terrible marriage, I was beaten down, quite frankly. And a lot of you guys watching this, you're in that place right now. You're beaten down. Your self-esteem is down. Your self-worth is down. And I'm here to tell you, you can come out of that and you'll be in a wonderful place on the other side. Maybe some of you are experiencing what I experienced in my marriage as far as being gaslighted, being manipulated, your self-worth constantly being denigrated purposely. Your self-worth is or was purposely denigrated. Well, once I got away from that relationship and I was able to realize my worth again, and as a man, and ultimately build back my confidence and my self-esteem. In other words, I found myself again, a strong, resilient man who was on purpose. It enabled me to recreate my purpose and go back to crafting and creating the ideal life that I want. You watching this content, you can do that as well. Know your worth and be on point with your purpose. It's why I started Resilient Man Channel, to help men like you watching this right now, to be an advocate for each other, to help each other through the challenges and the issues that we deal with as men in our society and culture every day, which are legitimate. Okay, so let me know your thoughts. Let me know your take. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate your support. Check out the other content here on Resilient Man. A lot of great stuff specifically for men and the topics and the challenges that we deal with. So guys, focus on you being the best version of yourself, and that will bring you the most peace and the most happiness, the most joy in your life. Know your worth. Protect your peace.